Good evening, everybody. This is Dave and Dalton. We are here with a special treat for all of you.
Hey, friends. So, dude, maybe we should be like this for this.
Yeah, we'll do this the entire time.
Yep.
And
because we are talking
we'll
about.
be bonded for this entire battle. Perhaps. Well, we couldn't. Do
that was rough.
It was a rough segue. Yeah, in honor of Battle Bond, we were going to be talking about Two-Headed Giant today, and it's a wacky, wild, and entertaining format, and it goes great with our team formats events thing that we had a couple of episodes ago. So you can check that out. A lot of the team format stuff is probably not going to be really that applicable here. Because as we noted back then, Two-Headed Giant events are not great in competitive rel, which is what our team format event broadcast mostly focused on. So today we are going to be talking all about Two-Headed Giant, all about wacky different rules and what's different about Two-Headed Giant events compared to a normal event. So
yeah, and Two-Headed Giant is out there.
If
you've never played it or experienced it before,
it's pretty sweet. Like
I know that they always have Two-Headed Giant events at SCG Opens. They have side events that are Two-Headed Giant. They have them at Grand Prix.
Sure do.
Pretty much every local store you find is going to have a Two-Headed Giant pre-release. So
they're going to be having some this time around. That's for sure.
Oh yes. So if you never experienced it, I would recommend getting out and doing so.
It is actually kind of fun.
I love playing Two-Headed Giant. And that's kind of where I started playing Magic, was Two-Headed Giant. So It's got a special place right here.
It's also a really great way to introduce people to Magic. Like if you have a friend who's like kind of on the fence and they're not sure if they want to try it out, taking them to a Two-Headed Giant event is a great way to get them involved in the game because it's not intimidating. Because you have your friend like right next to you the entire time.
Yeah, you can help them build their deck. You can help them. Maybe I'm spoiling stuff, but
now that is
you can help them build their deck and play, and it definitely is a great chance for newer players. So, why don't we dive into the rules? Because
there's a couple of
there are a lot of things that change.
There is,
and a lot of it is, I'd say, pretty straightforward.
Yeah. No, I would say like the biggest kind of thing that people need to know about Two-Headed Giant, and this is one of my things that I tell everybody, because Two-Headed Giant is on the L1 practice exam, so you have to know this stuff if you're certifying. So when I like work with people, the Two-Headed Giant, the biggest thing to know in Two-Headed Giant is that there's 4 players, there's 2 opponents, and there's 1 you. So that means that like any card that uses the term player, that all 4 of the people involved in the game is going to be a possible choice for that. And all the opponents, if a card says opponent, your 2 opponents are going to be a valid choice for that. And then if it's you, it only refers to you specifically, not your teammate. Okay, so first things first. If you have never played Two-Headed Giant before, what is Two-Headed Giant? So I guess I kind of jumped the gun a little bit.
It'd probably be a good place to start.
A little earlier, I probably before we get into some of this stuff, we'll talk about exactly what Two-Headed Giant is. So it's an alternate format where you and your friend play on a team, right? So both of us, for example, would be a team.
It'd be a pretty sweet team.
We do make a good team. I certainly think so. And it's a team format event, meaning that you and them are playing. But the sweet thing about Two-Headed Giant is, unlike team format like GPs, for example, where everybody on the team is playing their own match, you and your teammate are playing together in one game against the opposing team, and it's one big game that all 4 of you are participating in at the same time.
Yep, and a lot of, I would say the majority of my experience with Two-Headed Giant has come in limited.
Yes, that is the most common Two-Headed Giant event.
But it doesn't mean that you can't do it with your modern decks or your legacy or Pauper or Commander.
Yeah, Two-Headed Commander. It would be a fun
change your life totals, but
yeah. So there is, because of the fact that it's 2 people playing at the same time in one game on a team against another 2-person team, there's going to be a couple of things that need to change, and one of them is the life total. You start with 30 life now. They actually changed it. It used to be 40, and then the games lasted forever, so they changed it down to 30.
Yeah, so your team shares 1 life total.
Yes.
So if David and I are a team and we are
Yes.
playing against the opponents, David and I together have 30 life and they have 30 life. If I hit David, or if they hit David for 5 damage, our whole team loses 5 life.
Yeah.
So though David is the only one that took damage.
That's correct. So it's kind of interesting, some of the consequences of that, and we'll have some example questions for you later on in the broadcast. But that is the way it works. When either person on the team takes damage or loses life, then that is subtracted from the team's shared life total, and then that's what the game does.
Shared life total is pretty sweet, but you know what's even better?
Shared poison?
Sharing mana.
Oh yeah, that's not as good because you don't get to do that.
No.
So life total is the only thing that you have in common, unless you have some poison cards, because you also share your poison total together too.
But what about energy?
Yeah, energy is per player. Experience counters are per player. Don't think we were going to forget about that.
Nope.
But yeah, so cards in hand, mana, creatures, all of that stuff is specific to the person who actually played it, just like a normal game of Magic.
Yeah. So you do have a few things you have to consider, and if you're playing the Planeswalker, or not the Planeswalker, the Commander variant, I think your starting life total is 60.
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, that's a rough one. But I want to say that
It's
the number
15
is 60.
poison though. If
15 for
yes.
Commander, or for two-headed giant.
Yeah,
yes.
for two-headed giant, it's 15 poison where you lose the game.
Another big thing that most players would like to know is that you are playing a multiplayer event. What that means is you get a free mulligan.
Yes.
So at the start of
First
your match,
mulligan is free.
you look at that nice hand of yours. It's 6 lands and a 10-drop. Your 6 lands and a Galta.
Send it right back.
You send it right back, and you pick up a brand new 7.
Yes. Do you get to scry if you do that?
No.
No.
You get to
So in
scry if you go less
in
than
the CR, it actually says you only scry if your starting hand size is less than your prescribed starting hand size. So that in fact will not generate a scry for you.
It's not a sweet hack.
Yeah. Now
2HG hacks, bro.
the reason for this is because two-headed giant is 1 game in a match, just 1, and so the reason for that is because the games last a lot longer, and much longer, in fact. So even if it's 1 game per match, you're still going to have a bunch of them go into time. And when you go to time, how many extra turns are there, Dalton?
Well, there's not 5,
It's
David.
not 5.
So when you go into turns in a two-headed giant match, you only go to 3 turns.
Yes, 3 extra turns and not 5. That question is a very popular one among judge practice exams. I learned that very near to the day that I certified. In fact, I think it actually was on the day that I certified. One of my mentors at that event was giving me questions, and that one I had never come across before. So stuff that I've never come across before is interesting to me. So I'll be sure to pass that one along to all of my people who I am mentoring.
Yeah.
And 3 extra turns and not 5 in two-headed giant.
So done. We're ready to play, right?
There's one more.
What?
Which is
So many rules.
the play draw rule is exactly the same. That is not different. Sometimes people think that it's going to be different because the mulligan rule is different from what they're used to, but that is in fact not the case. The play draw rule happens the same as it normally was. So if your team is playing first, you skip your first draw step.
Yep. And with this, a lot of players draw comparisons to Commander. They'll say, oh, well, it's multiplayer, so first person draws, right? That is not the case. The only multiplayer effect is that you get that free mulligan. And that's just because, as Dave mentioned, it's a best of 1. You don't do first to 2 in Magic or in Two-Headed Giant. You play 1 game, and that is your match. Hope to Nylea, I'm going to choose, that it doesn't end in a draw.
Yeah, then you have to start over.
Yep.
And your second one is also probably going to be a draw.
Yes. Spoilers.
Due to the rounds being 50 minutes long. So okay, that is the administrative stuff about Two-Headed Giant. Again, because you're teammates, this is another important thing. You get to see all the information your teammate has access to. You get to discuss all your plays. You don't have to discuss in public. You can use a foreign language if you're both, se vocês são fluentes in. Yeah, I can maybe
see.
Yeah, no, that's about as far as I got.
That was not my other language of choice.
You like Korean better?
No, pero si quieres hablar sobre nuestras
you're better than I am at any other language besides English, that's for sure.
So, oh man, this is a great format.
Or you can whisper.
Yeah.
That's the other alternative you have if you don't speak a foreign language in common.
Yes, so you can talk to each other, you can show each other your hands, make your plays together. But unfortunately,
and this is why they all go to time.
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of it is, maybe it would take me 10 seconds to look at my hand and go, oh, well, I don't know this one. But if David's here with me, then we're going to take a minute going like,
hey,
maybe.
Man, let's go in the tank
But
here.
what about this one?
No, I think we want to play imaginary card number 1 in your hand.
Well, let's play Shared Fate.
No, let's not play that card.
Now, this does lead to some issues, and I'd say most of the time with Two-Headed Giant, you're going to go into the event and you're going to have a good friend that you go and play with, and things work out great because you're having fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will pair up with someone they don't know. Maybe they really want to play Two-Headed Giant, but their friend bailed on them or had to go to their hotel, and they might get partnered up with someone else who had the same situation.
Yep.
Well, if David and I, let's say that we don't know each other. We're randos here.
Yeah.
And I think David should play card A, and he thinks he should play card B, and we can't come to an agreement.
Yeah.
We're playing card B.
Is that the one that I said
That's
we should play?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the way you can remember this is whoever's sitting on the right is right.
Yeah.
And so that if you disagree, there has to be some way to break the tie, right? Because there's 2 players, and that is what the answer is. If you disagree, the person on the right is right because they are the primary head.
Yeah.
And
all heads are not created equal.
Yeah, my head is much bigger than Dalton's, and therefore has extra votes in cases where there's a tie. So
yeah. So I'd say 99% of the time that never comes up. And
why do you think I chose to sit on the right for these?
Yes. So 99% of the times that's not going to matter. But every now and then, if you get a couple players that, are getting close and they probably should have made a play by now, but they haven't, you may just have to pop in and say, hey,
be aware of slow.
We're going to have to go with the primary head here.
Be aware because that is for sure a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just because you're in a multiplayer format and can discuss your picks, like we mentioned with team formats last time, you by no means get more time.
Yeah,
you still have to play quickly and responsibly.
Yeah, you shouldn't be not finishing your match, but like you said, they always
it happens.
They find a way.
It shouldn't be your goal.
So let's see if there's any other kind of interesting stuff that we haven't gone through yet.
And chat, we'll get there. But if you have any questions for us, that you'd like to see answered, go ahead and pop it in the chat there.
Yeah, we would love to listen to your take on what stuff that you think we should talk about.
David, did you do any battle bonding?
I have not done any battle bond yet, although I did open some booster packs.
I did as well.
I helped one of my friends. And Dalton,
it was the same box.
Who won that pack?
So we had
challenge?
a friend who got paid for an event in a box of battle bond because the store was out of Dominaria.
Aw. Battle Bond's still pretty sweet though.
Yeah, it's got
there's some live hits in that set.
And he opened 12 packs. I opened 12 packs, and David opened 12 packs.
Yeah.
And I think my best card was I want to say a foil crappy white commander card that wasn't even worth it. David, on the other hand, won. He didn't keep the card or anything. We were just having fun there.
The packs heard that I was a legacy player.
David
so
opened
I
that bad rogue right there.
Yeah, and it's actually very bad in Two-Headed Giant, but it's a lot realer in single player formats, which is the opposite of how they usually make these multiplayer matters.
Honestly, probably the best place to put True Name Nemesis, if you want to reprint it again, is in a set like Battle Bond.
Yeah.
Because in limited, it's
that card is the dumbest thing in the world.
Oh yeah,
like
and if
they would have to have
healthy,
the draft format would have to have like multiple like Zealous Persecution, Knight of Souls, Betrayals, Diabolic Edict, Wrath effects in there for it to be like remotely balanced. But yeah, that card is just dumb in any limited environment. Maybe they'd make it in Invocation. And I'm actually kind of surprised that they didn't. Like somewhere along the line, they could have
Invocation. Your desert merfolk.
They could have did it in Ixalan. Oh, Ixalan, they took them away. That would have been like really nice on theme though.
But then they brought back the ones for the. We're off topic.
Yeah. I don't know. True Name Nemesis is really good. So okay, the other big thing that you have to think about is combat. Combat is the next big one. We had to take a little bit of a break so that people could get catch their breath here because this one's kind of a doozy. The combat rules. Oh wait, they changed them.
Oh yeah.
They changed the combat rules. The combat rules used to be like this nightmare, like unweaving a tapestry to kind of figure out what was going on. So now they're actually quite straightforward.
So we've skipped ahead a little bit. We're blowing through all of our other steps and phases.
Yeah.
In Two-Headed Giant,
most of them is pretty self-explanatory.
In Two-Headed Giant, you and your partner both take your steps and turns together.
Yeah.
So David and I will simultaneously untap our permanents.
Yes.
We will simultaneously have upkeeps.
Yes.
And anything that triggers an upkeep. David, what happens if you have a trigger and I have a trigger?
What do you think happens?
Who puts it on stack? Who's active player?
It's we're both the active player.
Yeah,
we're the active team.
We get to choose for all instances in Two-Headed Giant. Your active player, non-active player is pretty much going to be active team, non-active team. And so if we both have triggers that occur at the same time, we together choose how we would like to stack them.
Yeah, and that's kind of interesting because like you can do some stuff that you wouldn't normally be able to do. Like if I have two triggers and he has one, then I can do like mine, then his, then my other one. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how that works.
Yep. So we'll do our untap steps. We'll draw together, and then our main phase. We mentioned that we can't share mana.
Yes.
So you don't have to worry about having you and your teammate playing the same colors. Because you can't share mana, so it doesn't matter. But we have that same phase together. So if I want to cast a sorcery and my opponent wants to cast a sorcery, we still use that same stack.
Yeah.
We can't cast our sorceries at the same time. So together we take our turn. And if I want to cast one and he wants to cast one, we'll have to wait for one to resolve first.
Yeah. Time and priority works exactly the same, except that players do not have priority. Teams have priority. Mm-hmm. All the other priority rules work exactly the same. Yep. And again, if I want to cast a spell and Dalton wants to cast a spell, the person sitting on the right, the primary head, gets to decide what order those happen in.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it doesn't necessarily occur as I want to cast this, so it's on the stack first.
Another interesting thing is like land drops. Like obviously the players have land drops. The team does not have land drops, which means that playing lands works the same way as how it normally would. Also,
yeah, it doesn't register. Your team gets 2 land drops per turn.
It's much simpler than that. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, for the most part it works how you would think it would work.
Yeah, and that's good because that's kind of how they made the rules.
It makes it easier. Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you wanted to talk about combat.
I did.
Okay.
Combat is actually the only thing that's legitimately different about Two-Headed Giant.
But how? How could it possibly be different, Dave?
It's different in a lot of ways. So for example, here's like a card. What kind of card should we use for this?
A good one. Probably a rare.
Hypnotic Spectre is a rare, right? I
think it at least was a rare.
Yeah, they've printed a couple of different times. Let's see what it comes. Yeah, it's the rare is what comes up in our auto card search here. So if you look at a card like the Hypnotic Spectre here, you notice something kind of interesting, which is that whenever it deals damage to an opponent, that player discards a card at random. Mm-hmm. So that's weird. So if I attack your team, who would discard a card? Because as we said before, the life total is a shared resource, right? So the Hypnotic Spectre dealing damage is going to cause both players' life total to decrease. So maybe both players can discard a card. That'd be kind of cool, right?
Wouldn't that be sweet? Both players discard at random.
Yeah, that I would, as a Hypnotic Spectre owner, I would endorse that.
So as David mentioned earlier, you are 1U, 2 opponents, 4 players.
Yes.
Hypnotic Spectre reads when it deals damage to an opponent, so you must specify which opponent it is.
Yes, and the way they do that has actually changed recently. Yep. So, and in my opinion, it's much better this way. It's much more streamlined. So you don't attack the teams in Two-Headed Giant. What you do is you attack the players individually, or the Planeswalkers. If you want to attack their Planeswalkers, you can attack Planeswalkers. So when I say I'm attacking with Hypnotic Spectre, in Two-Headed Giant, part of the process of me doing that is saying I'm attacking this player on the opposing team with Hypnotic Spectre. And that means that when Hypnotic Spectre deals combat damage, it's going to be dealing its combat damage to that specific player, and that specific player is going to be the one that discards. The other person does not. Even though the shared life total decreases, the only person who's considered to have been dealt damage by Hypnotic Spectre is the one specific player that I was attacking, and so that's the way that these types of effects work. As a side note, that means that like certain types of effects get significantly worse in Two-Headed Giant. Stuff like this, or the other like really widespread one is this one, Propaganda, and so also the same situation. If they are savvy, they are probably going to elect to attack the player who's not controlling a Propaganda. That way, they will save 2 mana for each creature they're attacking with.
I had seen a few Dominaria Two-Headed Giants.
Yeah,
where they were attacking into Baird, Steward of Argive.
Oh yeah.
Which is the
don't
new.
Have to pay out. No paying.
Yep, and they just kept paying every turn. So,
well, I mean, like that's a legal thing to do.
It is. It is indeed.
With our friend Baird. So maybe you got like there's reasons you would maybe do that, because maybe the other guy has something like this. So again, the Spear of Heliod would not be very effective with its second ability, because ordinarily the players would choose to be attacking the person who doesn't control Spear of Heliod, so they would not be able to. Or this is one of my favorite cards. Can you guess why?
Because I have a signed copy in my deck box there.
Oh, that's kind of cool. So yeah, this is another kind of example of that. They're probably not going to be dealing any damage to you if this card is in play. Stay tuned for the No Mercy Rules Challenge coming in December.
Oh boy.
So yeah, that's one important consequence of how attacking works. So I'm going to be attacking, and Dalton's got some creatures he's going to be attacking also.
Yeah.
And
turn them sideways.
Yeah, turn them sideways. And as we mentioned, when we do the attacking, as part of saying which creatures we're attacking, we also have to say which players or planeswalkers we're attacking with those creatures. And so as a result, one might wonder, well, let's say I'm attacking, defending player N, and Dalton is attacking the other defending player. Can you block creatures that are not attacking you?
David, I actually don't know how this one worked with our new rules change. I know that you used to be able to do so.
Yeah, you still can.
I think you still can.
Yeah, they didn't change that. Gosh, that would be an enormous change if they were to do something like that.
That'd be horrible.
So yes, the way it works is, even though I am attacking you, your teammate has creatures. There's no thing saying that you have to block creatures that are attacking you. It's sort of like how if someone's attacking your planeswalker, you can still block that creature. It's the same sort of thing. Even though that creature,
your teammate is your planeswalker.
Yeah, your planeswalkers are also your teammates in some sense of the word.
That's how they're supposed to work, right?
I think that's the flavor behind it. I'm not sure what the flavor is behind some of the other stuff that planeswalkers can't do. Like, I can play more than one spell a turn. What's your problem, Jace?
Are you supposed to be like really smart or something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, how many times? What's the most number of times you've ever brainstormed in one turn, Jace? Because I've at least done it 3 or 4 times before personally.
With Teferi's help, he can do it twice.
I mean, with the Chainveil's help,
and with
you
Chainveil, you can do it 3
You
times.
can throw one more on there.
Oh boy, what a Jace!
So yeah, that's how attacking works, and that's how blocking works. And as we mentioned before, the unblocked attacking creatures are going to deal their combat damage to whichever player or planeswalker they're attacking, and only that player or planeswalker is going to be considered to have been dealt damage by those attacking creatures. So that's kind of interesting for effects like the No Mercy effect and the other ones. So any questions about how any of this stuff works?
No, I got one thing for you.
Anybody
it's
in
a
the
little
chat
bit of
have any
strategy.
questions?
I'll share the story.
Yeah.
while chat
Share the
has us
story
up.
and chat. If you have any questions about anything we've talked about, please
So
type away.
my first pre-release I did was M15.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
My friend and I were playing together, and between our 2 pre-release kits, we opened 7 Mind Sculpts.
All right. So
Mind Sculpts
we'll
of
pull
blue
that
and
one up.
1. It says target player puts the top 7 cards of their library into their graveyard.
Yeah. See,
Target
like,
opponent.
See,
Okay.
get it, Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yes, you can tell that's his glove there.
Yeah.
Or
Oh,
his
is that?
sleeve.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
I thought this was like his dad or something in the art. I was like, how is Jason here?
We opened 7 of these.
That's quite
So
odd.
we put them all. I had like I want to say it was just mono ramp green deck to
Yeah.
provide creatures. I had a Hornet Queen, so I could just
Hornet
ramp into
Queen's-
5
Hornet Queen's pretty big game.
5 death touch blockers with flying.
Yeah.
And my teammate's strategy was just mill them out.
Yep.
In Two-Headed Giant, if one player loses, your team
did.
loses.
They did.
So if your team hits
It's dangerous to go
0,
alone.
you're dead. If for whatever reason one player gets 10 poison counters, which is now
15 poison counters.
or 15 poison counters, which is a team, they lose.
Yeah.
But also
That one is a shared
Yeah.
resource though.
Yeah. That's the weird one.
We'll talk about that more later
Yeah.
too.
And then the last one is if a player tries to draw from a library that has no cards in it, they lose.
Yeah.
So if one of the players on the team gets milled out, their team loses. This was our whole strategy.
Wow.
Was Mind Sculpt.
That's reasonable.
I want to say we like 2-2'd.
Oh.
Yeah, but it was my first one, so I was pretty happy. As the primary head too. Now that I think about it,
That
was
the
dumb.
moral victory. The moral
I'd been
victories.
playing Magic for probably a month or two, maybe a few months, judging by the fact that I spent $25 on Magic. I was very upset at the thought of having to spend $25 on cards.
Yeah,
but it was fun. I did it with my friend.
We've graduated from that
Yes.
school of thought.
But from that, I learned some really cool stuff, and it was a good experience.
Yeah. Like we said before, it's a great way to get into Magic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so no questions from the chat. It's time for the Two-Headed Giant trivia round, and the trivia round is important because a lot of the stuff that's confusing and weird about Two-Headed Giant is basically like one of kind of things. It's like, how does this card work in Two-Headed Giant?
Yep.
So here's a card. Here's a card that maybe you've heard of or maybe not heard of before. It's Door to Nothingness. I remember when this card was first released in 5th Dawn. It was super mega hype. It was a very rare type of effect. Target player loses a game. So obviously what would happen in this case would be I Door to Nothingness on one of my opponents, most likely, and they lose the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens?
Well, they done lost.
Yeah,
They're going home.
yeah, it's like
Or they're going to get lunch, depending on
yeah,
how quickly
depending on
you did
where
this.
we were in the round. I mean, it does cost 10 mana, but yeah,
does.
if one player on the team loses, both lose, and that's true for going to 0 life and getting 10 or 15 poison, just like you would expect it to be, because those are shared resources. But like he was saying with the drawing cards from an empty library, that is even if one person has cards that they could donate to their teammate somehow, it doesn't work. The Door to Nothingness is the same thing. If one of them loses due to getting doored, then they both get shown the door. And so similar situation to that is our friend Big Plat, and with Platinum Angel in play.
Big Plat.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I guess. Big Plat is probably the other card that we're probably going to be talking about sometime in the future.
I'd say that's bigger, yes.
It is bigger, quite bigger. But yeah, if you got Platinum Angel out, you cannot lose the game. Your teammate also cannot lose the game, and your opponents cannot win the game. So these cards pretty much work the way you'd expect them to. Now, I guess I kind of tipped my hand a little bit that we were going to be talking about this guy, Mr. Empyrean. Ignoring such insignificant forces as time, entropy, and the fact that there's a teammate. Actually, he does not ignore that. He pays very close attention to the fact that you have a teammate because your teammate also, their life total cannot change either. So be sure to crack all your fetch lands in response, Dalton.
I will, and I won't be asleep at the table.
They will not be doing a whole lot after Platinum Empyrean comes into play because you won't be able to pay one life. So let's see any other sweet ones. Here's one.
I was gonna say I bet you have one, David.
One or two. I mean,
Explorers of Ixalan. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, what is that?
I was not aware that they reprinted this card in Explorers of Ixalan, but yeah.
Apparently.
So what do you think?
Double target player's life total. Shuffle Beacon of Immortality into its owner's graveyard.
Well, that part, the shuffling into your library is not the interesting part.
You shuffle it into both of your libraries.
Both of them together. What if that was how it worked?
That would be a nightmare.
I think the rules would be a little bit more complicated.
You combine both of your
libraries. They need to be a little bit more
day.
complicated to support stuff like that happening. But yeah, so the doubling your life total is more interesting.
You will double the team's life total of whichever player you choose.
Yeah, so
because it doesn't have to be your own.
Probably you, but we got the false cure action going on. Phage is kind of hungry sometimes.
Yes.
So okay, this is the relevant rule here is in a case where anything in the game wants to know what a player's life total is, they use the team's life total. And if anything happens to the player's life total, it happens to the team's life total. So the way this would work is I would play Beacon of Immortality, targeting myself, or maybe targeting Dalton. Maybe I'm in a charitable mood. So then when that resolves, the game is going to be like, hey, Dalton, what's your life total?
17.
17, a fine number. If the team is at 17 life, we're at 17. So the Beacon of Immortality is going to do some quick maths, double that to 34 life, and at that time, I'm an engineer, so I've done that one. So yeah, the doubling happens, and then the team's life total is set to 34.
Yep.
So that is how that, and so some other kind of like similar types of effects.
By Rob Alexander.
Yeah. Oh, you want to know about this is Steve Belladin. I think he did a similar Sphinx though, similar looking. You got like our friend Magister Sphinx is like the same thing. Comes into play. Target player's life total becomes 10, and so the team's life total becomes 10. So interesting to note, in these cases, only the affected player is considered to have gained or lost life as appropriate.
Yep. I was going to say, as you may know, when a player's life total is set to something lower than their current life total, they're considered to have lost X amount of life.
Yeah, that's how the game accomplishes that change, to set a life total to a specific number, or in an exchange. The exchange happens by having them gain or lose the appropriate amount of life.
So there are some fun combos there.
Oh yeah.
I've really wanted to build a Tainted Remedy deck in Modern.
Well, yeah, you could do
it
that.
Wouldn't be great, but it would
great.
be fun.
And then you'd have like something that like gives all their creatures lifelink or something.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Heroes Reunion, green white, target player gains 7.
Gain 7, my friend.
Green white burn spell.
Yeah.
Ooh. I like it.
So, all right, here's another one. So, like, I have this awesome card, the Ghast of Blood, and what is your opinion on whether it has haste or not?
Well, you gotta look. Depends, David. What is our opponent's team's life at?
Yeah, it's at 19.
19.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, our Bloodghast is very slow.
Yeah. So believe it or not, it used to work.
You don't do math.
Yeah, it used to work a little bit differently. So like each player would be considered to have like half of that life total. So yeah, that was kind of interesting. Yeah, now it's just like, oh,
each player has 9.5 life.
Yeah, no. They I don't know how they rounded it. They had a way to round it too. But yeah, so with the Bloodghast, it's very simple now.
Yep.
The team has 10 life. Okay, it has haste. The team has 11 life. No haste. Slow zombie or slow vampire, fast vampire. This is another example of that principle in action. You've got the lurking evil. And so half of your life is going to be half of your team's combined life. Would be the number that you're trying to pay here. All right, so let's see what else we got in the old bag of tricks. Any questions about any of this stuff from the chat? That's one important principle. These next few principles are probably going to be a little bit more corner case, and by probably I mean that's what's going to happen. And but hey, it's two-headed giant. All right, so you remember when I said that like exchanges happened? Can you think of a card that exchanges the life total?
Axis of Immortality. Are there any others that do it?
Oh, sure.
I have no idea.
There sure are.
Okay. Or I guess Evra, Halcyon Witness.
Okay, Immortality.
Seems fine.
I don't like it.
Rats. I'm sorry about you, David. Oh yeah.
We'll use my example card then.
Fine.
So we can exchange target opponent's life total with a Tree of Perdition's toughness.
Yeah.
So that one is going to have you go to 13.
Your Triskaideka Wombo combo.
Yeah, that's the wombo. Yeah. That's the combo.
Okay. The dream.
The super dream. You probably this one is a little bit less well known. Is our friend the Mirror Universe, where you can exchange life totals with target opponent.
Indeed.
I think Magus is the Mirror. Is there a card that does that? I believe there is, and I think they might have updated the wording. Yeah, the Magus of the Mirror does the same thing. Exchange life totals with target opponent. Now, one interesting thing is you cannot exchange life totals with your teammate. That's
why?
It's kind of interesting. Well,
because it's already
it's
your life
thing.
total.
Yeah, not sure. Or you cannot redistribute. Life totals such that your two players on the same team switch life totals. Can you think of a card that redistributes life totals?
I don't. I can't. No.
I think there may be. This is the one that I know because I was playing when this card was released, and it was kind of a big deal. For the low cost of 8 mana, you can exchange life totals with your teammate. Well, not with your teammate, but with your opponent maybe. So yeah, you can redistribute any number of players' life totals. Okay. But you cannot redistribute like my life total to Dalton because we're on the same team. So we can in two-headed giant. The way this card works is exactly the way it works in one-headed, regular Magic. Is switch my life total with yours, or not. That's you can not have to do that too. Yep. Let's see what else we got in the old bag of tricks here.
It's exciting. I don't know.
What?
I'm afeared.
You're scared. This is kind of a scary situation here. So for some reason, your worst fear is having someone else control your turn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seems reasonable.
So let's talk about that in Two-Headed Giant. What would you, a rational individual who understands what the words of English mean? What would you as a rational individual think that this card would do in Two-Headed Giant?
Well, rationally, you'd think that you control half their team.
Yeah, I mean, like you're only controlling one player during that player's next turn.
That seems fair.
But in fact, it is slightly more fair than that because you get to control both of them.
Yeah,
both players.
You control both players.
Some of you might think this is dumb, and it is a little bit dumb.
It's strange.
It's strange. But if you are familiar with some history, that will help make things a little bit more clear. So here is an example of how those effects were originally worded. This is Mindslaver, the original printing of Mindslaver, and you can see what it says. You control target player's next turn. So that makes a lot more sense if you think about it, because if you are controlling their turn rather than the player, they share the turn. So logically, you would be controlling the whole turn. You'd be calling all of the shots, and that is the reason. Well, it's one of the reasons why these effects are worded that way. Or
Another
work that way.
Yep. Another we've already covered is the primary head for two-headed giant.
Yes.
If someone takes control of my turn, and David could just veto everything they want to do because he's the primary head, then that leads to bad gameplay.
Yeah, it's the worst fears is becoming a lot worse in that case. And the other side of the coin is that if the person playing worst fears is savvy enough to know how that works, then of course obviously they would elect to control the person who's the primary head, and then they would get the same effect anyway.
Yep. So instead of messing with all the shenanigans, we just take control of the turn.
No shenanigans involved. In fact, it's literally you control the team's turn. So even though it's kind of weird and kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense, if you understand the reasons why it is working like that, then it makes a lot more sense. At least for me, it does. Hopefully people in the chat agree with that statement.
Yeah.
So
We'll see.
We got some more.
If not, you'll get some angry emails later.
Yeah, I mean, you can always email us, judgingftw@gmail.com. We do our best to reply to all of the email that we get.
We can't reply to the ones you don't send, though.
That's true. So if you have any questions out there, definitely don't hesitate to hit us up. So, okay.
Right.
What else we got? Oh, this is good.
Ooh.
This is good. It's party time. Yeah, it's a special kind of party where you can't gain life and you lose half your life every turn.
Wait, I don't like this party.
It's you might not be in the right guild then, because the Rakdos kind of do that kind of stuff all the time, I guess.
Have we had this discussion about what guild you think you would be in?
Oh, for sure, Dimir or Orzo.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, the Orzo is definitely an appealing philosophy to me. But yeah, probably
That's
Dimir.
fair.
Dimir doesn't share the knowledge as freely as I like to, though. So maybe not.
True.
Who knows? They're more secretive.
You like acquiring knowledge.
I don't think that Dimir would have the Twitch channel where they talk about the rules every.
No, you might send out propaganda though.
Yeah, I mean,
it's maybe you could write the rules.
That's kind of what we're doing here.
There you
go. That'd be cool. That'd be cool if stuff that we talked about here influenced how the rules work. Because I definitely have some ideas. If anybody here is watching and they want to they want to hear Dave's suggestions about how the rules should work, then by all means.
Hit us up.
Yeah, that's so. In the meantime, speaking of hitting people up, what would we be doing in a game of two-headed giant where this was in play? So first of all, the players can't gain life. That's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
But we
have an exciting word.
Oh yeah.
So we do have a triggered ability. Yes. The exciting word I like here is each.
Oh, I was thinking half, but
Half is probably a keyword.
It's pretty important.
In two-headed giant, if you target an opponent, in most cases you still only target the one player, even if it has you will target the one player, even if it will affect the team.
Yes.
Havoc Festival, instead of target it, you are on each. In the game of Magic, as David mentioned, 1U, 2 teams, 4 players.
Yes.
So each player, even though they're on the same team and their upkeep will occur at the same time, they still each have an upkeep. So Havoc Festival will trigger for one player and trigger for the other, and you can stack those however you'd like.
Yeah.
But you still have to resolve them both.
Okay.
So if David and I are starting, we have 30 life, we haven't taken any damage yet, and someone plays a Havoc Festival, we'll lose 15.
Yeah.
And we'll go to 15, and then we'll lose 8 and go to 7 in one turn.
Yep.
How exciting.
That is exciting. So yeah, because it says each player's upkeep, it's my upkeep and it's Dalton's upkeep, and so we're both players, and so it triggered for both of our. Now let's have a look at a slightly different card, the Verdant Force, which triggers at the beginning of each upkeep. Notice that they're missing one specific word, which is players.
Players.
Yes, which is completely different because the teams share their upkeep steps.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being the case, the Verdant Force, when it comes upkeep time, it's going to be like, oh, this is an upkeep step, so I'm only going to trigger once because it's the team's shared upkeep step. I'm not going to trigger once for each player, even though it's my upkeep step and Dalton's upkeep step.
Yes.
Because this does not say at the beginning of each player's upkeep, it just says at the beginning of each upkeep. During your opponent's team's turn, they will you get another sap rolling then, because it'll be another upkeep. But yeah, so that is interesting. This is another one of those cases where the wording being slightly different changes the answer completely. And so
Make sure you read those friendly cards.
Be sure you read carefully because there is a lot of this going on in Two-Headed Giant where the exact wording of the card is what makes the difference. And also, a lot of cards were not made with Two-Headed Giant in mind, which means that the answer might or might not make sense. So, for example, here's one delightful card that is the first instance of a card with this ability that I could think of off the top of my head. Our friend Kingpin's Pet, right? Kingpin's Pet has this exciting
flying.
So this is why I was saying I would maybe be in the Orzhov Guild. Because it has this great Two-Headed Giant ready ability called Extort. So whenever you cast a spell, you may pay the white or black mana, and if you do, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain that much life. So look, I can extort both players because they were thinking about Two-Headed Giant when they made this specific card. But there's lots of other examples of cards that are have the same style of ability, but it's only going to be one losing 1 life because it's not going to say each opponent. It'll say like that opponent or target opponent or
an opponent.
Yeah, so you don't get the super value time off of stuff like that. My last Two-Headed Giant pre-release that I did was this set. And
wow, that's a while back.
I don't have a lot of friends, so nobody wants to play with me.
We'll have to do this next one. What is it, M19?
M19 is the next one that's coming out.
We'll have to do one, David.
So, we had a lot of Orzhov cards, and we played them all because they all had Extort, and
make sure to
we drained them out.
Make sure to subscribe to our Twitch, send us fun monies, and you can support our draft. It'll be great.
Hey, we'll live stream it.
Yeah, there we go.
No problem. I will live stream all my picks, and you guys can critique my ability to draft.
Wouldn't that be swell?
It would be pretty swell. We could do a Two-Headed Giant draft. We'll talk about that after we get done with all these extra bonus examples, because that's actually kind of fun and kind of relevant too at the same time. So let's see. Looks like we got a few more. I'm kind of saving this one for later. Okay. Here's maybe kind of a nice easier one. So when this enters the battlefield, each player may scry 1. So obviously everyone's scrying 1. Great.
Yep.
Now, me and Dalton are on a team. Can I ask Dalton's advice about which
about anything,
whether I should put the card down on the top or bottom?
Yeah, you certainly can.
Can Dalton ask my advice?
I certainly can.
Okay. Will we know?
Will we get a penalty?
No. We won't, because it's Two-Headed Giant. That's how this works. But will we know when I'm making the decision of whether to put on top or bottom? Will I know where Dalton put his?
No.
Well, I know where you're going.
I mean, you can ask me.
Yeah.
You can trust and hope.
You can trust and hope, I guess.
So, yeah, we will be scrying simultaneously. Yeah. And since we are both entitled to see that information, or since we are each entitled to see our own information, then we can freely share with our opponents and discuss.
Yes. Now, let's contrast that to something that says, let's say there's a triggered ability that says at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player scries 1, which I believe there's a card like that, but I don't remember what it is. So trust me that there's an ability that says that. In that case, what will happen?
You would have your 2 separate triggers, one for each player.
Yes.
You could stack them accordingly.
Yes.
However, they will resolve independently. So David will scry, and after that ability is finished resolving and he has already chosen whether to put on top or bottom,
Yeah.
I will.
So that is different because those are separate abilities causing you to scry. In this case, it's one ability that causes everybody to scry, so everybody scries at the same time. And because me and Dalton are scrying at the same time, I can be like, well, here's mine. What do you got? Okay, so both of these cards, are great together, but not good individually. So since we know that we're both having them, we can both put on top.
Yeah.
Or likewise, we can say like, well, I have my card A, and you have like some other card that doesn't make card A good for me, so we're both bottom. So that is the kind of interesting interaction that you can see with the two-headed giant is because both of the scries happen at the same time, you can consult and decide together. All right, here's another fun one. You've got what is it with people not gaining life, man? Like this has been one of the most brutal non-life total
Brutal
changing
streams.
one of the most non-life total changing streams that we've done in quite some time.
So this card, Archfiend of Despair, comes to us live from Battle Bond.
Yeah.
Which in theory means
like,
that
Soul Reaper Arena.
it should have some pretty good Oracle text.
Works really great. Works really great in Two-Headed Giant, right, guys?
Yeah, so David, at the beginning of each end step,
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So once again, this will not trigger during your end step and your end step.
Yes,
It
so
only
each
triggers
end step.
once.
But we have another each. Each opponent loses life equal to the
yes.
life that player lost this turn.
Yeah. Okay. So
And
I
of course,
could get in on
damage
that.
causes loss of life.
Sure,
right
sure.
there. You
So-
need to remember that.
So of course. So like if I attack with my Archfiend of Despair and
You hit
I
player A
hit player
for 6.
Yeah, hitting player A for 6. That means that in the end step, player A will lose 6 life, and player A's teammate will not lose 6
This
life.
is 12! No.
Yes, because of the fact that as we said at the very beginning of the episode, with attacking, you attack each player individually, and only the player that you attacked is considered to have lost life or been dealt damage that turn. And so as a result, the Archfiend of Despair is only going to be double teaming someone. We're not triple teaming. We're certainly not quadruple teaming. So yeah, we hit for 6, and then we hit for 6 more in the end step, and that's how that card works. So it's pretty sweet, but it's not as sweet as it could have been, and it's certainly not as sweet as I was led to believe originally, given that this was the Battle Bond set.
Yeah, check your Oracle text.
Yeah, check your Oracle. Well,
Always
that's
check
not even
Oracle text.
That's
With this one, like I said, with Battle Bond, you can hope that you're gonna have some quality control for Two-Headed Giant.
Oh yeah.
But for some of the others,
Well,
definitely
that one would have been just dumb.
Oh yeah.
All right. So here's another card that does work a little bit better. Is Landwalk, right? Who remembers when Landwalk was a mechanic? Anyone?
Remembers when Landwalk was in standard?
No? Yeah, okay. So you don't see this as much anymore. But so Island Walk means that it's unblockable as long as the defending player controls an island. Now it used to be there was a lot of like hoop jumping and like thumb twiddling that had to happen when we were deciding which team controlled, whether your team controlled an island. But now it's pretty simple because I'm only attacking one player. So if that player has an island, they can't block, and the other person can't block either because it's unblockable, cannot be blocked. And so if it's attacking a player who does not control any islands, then either player can block it. But if it's attacking a player who controls at least one island, neither player can block it. So it's very clean, works out pretty well. There are some other stuff that requires you to make a comparison, right? Who here remembers that? Seeing some comparison cards. Maybe.
I think this is a little before my time, David.
No, there's comparison ones. I had some sweet examples thought up. Let's see if we can remember one of them. So, Goblin Goon. That is an excellent one.
What is that from?
Yeah, it's not that great of one. It's one of those special sets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Goblin Goon is not a great example because again we changed how attacking works. But so let's say, is there any cards like that work anymore? Well, if you have to make a positive comparison, such as like if that player controls an island, okay, great. Usually, yeah. I don't think there's a way that you
that
can
might
do
not
that
be
now.
relevant anymore.
Yeah, they fixed it. It used to be that there was a way that you would not have a conclusive reference to which player it was, because when you attacked, the defending player wasn't set in stone. But now it is. Now it is. And so yeah, now I guess you don't have to make any comparisons anymore. But the way it used to work is you would do that comparison on each players, and the answer would be yes if both players said yes. And it'd be no if one of the players said no. Or yes if either player said yes. My apologies. And no if at least, or if both players said no, the answer would be no. So for example, with an island walk creature, it works exactly the same sort of as it does now, because it would be unblockable. But you wouldn't have to say, well, no, you didn't have to do anything. It would just always be unblockable. You wouldn't even have to be smart.
Well, now
you have to be smart to make it unblockable. But like if they have like one player with a propaganda and another player that has an island, if they have one player with a propaganda and another player with a swamp, and you attack with a swamp walking creature, you can choose to pay the 2 mana and attack the person with the propaganda. Or you can attack the player with the swamp
for
freezies. So it is a little different from how it used to work. All right, any more? I think I had one more super special awesome one. Oh yeah, this is great. If you've ever heard of this card before or this mechanic, this is the proliferate mechanic. So you do choose the players individually, and I can choose all 4 players. And I can give myself another energy, and I can give Dalton another experience counter, and I can give opponent player a poison counter, and I can't give the other opponent player a poison counter because there's a special rule that says that you cannot give both players on the same team an extra poison counter. So I can choose all 4 players, no problem, but there's a special rule that says I can't give a poison counter to the same team twice with one proliferate. So that would be kind of dumb if that were how it worked, because the poison would be a lot better of a mechanic, or proliferate would be a lot better of a mechanic.
Be so good.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool. Remember of course the history there being that the poison is a shared resource, and so it used to be that because it's a shared resource, you can't give them a poison counter twice, because there's only one poison pool to get proliferated into, I guess, is the reasoning for that. So, strange oil, probably nothing, but
it's quirky.
Only one more poison counter.
Yeah.
So that was all of the interesting questions that I had.
So we're about out of time.
Any questions from the chat? And,
drafting.
Yes. While we are eagerly awaiting any questions from anyone in the chat, we will talk about Two-Headed Giant draft. Have you ever participated in such a draft?
I have not drafted.
Have you ever participated as a judge in
I have
such
not.
a draft? Oh, okay. So it shows up every now and then. It's kind of weird is one way to put it. But okay, here's like the rundown. It's basically exactly the same as a normal booster draft, except that the 2 people sit next to each other on a team. So in a draft pool that has 8 people, it's going to be team, and then 2 people on another team, and then 2 people on the third team, and then 2 people on the fourth team, and then it goes back to us. So each player takes 1 card out of the booster pack. So that means that me and Dalton's team is going to take a card, and then me and Dalton's team is going to take another card, and then we're going to pass along. And when that happens, both of us put the cards into the same pool. And then after all the stuff has been drafted, then me and Dalton make our own decks out of the pool. So the cards don't go to an individual person during the draft. They go to an individual person during deck building, but not during the draft. And so that is pretty much all that's different. Now the other 6 booster packs is how many you have for a draft, which makes sense. Because the teams have 6. Total booster packs would average out to 3 per player, which is the same as you have in a normal draft. Except, for Battle Bond, we decided that 4 was the correct number to have for a Battle Bond Two-Headed Giant draft. And so in Battle Bond, each team will only require 4 booster packs instead of the normal 6.
So strange.
It is kind of strange. Kudos to Wizards for trying stuff out, but The negative side of that is, of course, that someone who's a judge has to like remember all this stuff. But we have like the CR and the MTR
You
and stuff.
have
We can look
us
stuff up.
to remember
Yeah,
that.
and you have us to remember it for you. So it's all good.
And then also with limited for sealed. In most cases, for most sealed events, a player will get 6 packs, and they will open those and build their deck from it. So you'd think with 12-headed giant you get, or 2-headed giant you get 12 packs.
Yeah, no.
That would make sense, but you don't.
Gosh, those decks would be so good if that were the case.
Well,
they'd be
some
like
that do
standard
like
decks.
box.
Oh,
For
that's just ridiculous.
So with 2-headed giant sealed,
Yeah.
you get 8 packs for your team.
Normal recommended is,
and
that's still pretty good.
the theory is that you need to look through 6 random packs to be able to build a deck of 2 colors or so that will be good and playable. But if you have 8 packs at your disposal, you can take all the best cards of maybe red and green, and your opponent can take all the best cards of blue and black, and you won't have a single issue with each other. You don't have to compete for any cards. So that's why they tend to cut back how many you receive as a team.
Yeah, and they do the same thing also in team sealed formats also, like and like legit in big tournaments like Grand Prix where they do team sealed. They do team sealed with fewer than
12 packs for a team.
Yeah. So it is not the 18 that you would expect if you were naively saying 6 per player. So it's 12 per team in that case, and it's for the same reasons, because if you are sharing your pool with your friends, then it makes it a lot easier to get higher or average power level decks out of fewer packs, because you aren't stepping on each other's toes on the colors.
So I think that's all we have for this evening.
That was everything that we had prepared. Hope everybody had an awesome time, and hope everybody had some awesome learning experiences. This is the weekend. If you were going to play some two-headed giant, play some two-headed giant this weekend, and we hope to see all of you at some events and flexing your two-headed giant muscle.
Yes. Until then, you can join us on June 28th for our live stream on Comp REL.
Judging competitive rel in your store.
Thanks. I almost forgot it, and that would have been really embarrassing.
It was my idea, and I forgot. But until that time, we will be signing off. This is
Have
Dave
an
and
excellent
Dalton.
night, friends.
Have a great day.